Good afternoon, my name is Yerly Serrano. I'm following with the presentation of the implementation of the database of Blue Breeze Restaurant. In the implementation part, we are putting in SQL language all the relationship and all the design that Mary did in the previous step. Then we're using here 3 steps, that is use, and we create already a database that is called Blue Breeze Restaurant In. We use create table restaurant. In this step, I'm going to show you just how to create the first table, that was the restaurant, and how assign the primary key. Then for each attribute, we have different kind of codes that are, if it's numeric, they, if I'm using characters or text, well, those are the data types. Well, here's the example how I put the database, that is Blue Breeze Restaurant. We are using Blue Breeze Restaurant, create the table, and we attach here the IRD, the restaurant ID, the restaurant name, the restaurant address. Those are the attributes. And here we have the primary key, that is restaurant ID. We are using the constraint to put the primary key, but for example here that we have a foreign key, that table is the employee table. We did exactly the same. We don't have to put again the use table. Then we put here the employee is a foreign key for the department ID. Then we don't use constraints. We use the foreign key reference and where we are taking the foreign key. After we create all the tables, even the 2 tables that was in third normal form, that is the database diagram that we can see where are related all the tables and which one is connected with which attribute or which entity, which is. Well, after that, we create views because it's so difficult to see how all the information that we have is not like friendly to see to the users. Then we have to create views and also each assign those views to each user and depend on the level of the user and what kind of information we want to that the users get access. Here's an example how we attach the tables, because even when we have different tables, we can connect. If the table is already connected with foreign keys, we can connect the information of the 2 different tables. Then we have here, for example, the table feedback and the table feedback class. The feedback class gave us the position of the qualification, if it's positive or negative, and the feedback gave us the qualification 1 to 5 that the customer gave us. Then here is an example, and this is the view. Then we have here the ID customer and which customer gave us this create view. We need to put create view and name the view how we want, and we select here from which table, which attributes we are taking from which table. And for example here I just want to see which feedback was negative. Then that's why we create feedback negative. And this is the easy view that we create to to make the example of the roles and the logins, because those views, the idea is assigned to each user depending on the log that we create. Then this is salary, and this salary is just to is going to be shown just for the sales manager. Then this is how we create the roles and user. Then we create first the login in the database server. Then it's not inside of the database, it's inside of the server, and we create the password and yes. We create the login name, that is manager sales, that with that login is the manager can get access, and we assign the password. After we create a user inside the database, now we are using the database and we create the same username. Assign what roles is going to have that user, then what he or she can do. Then we have here just the data reader, just can read the information of the data. And we select what permissions are we given to them, then grant or deny, if they can select, modify, update, view, all that the things that they can do with that view. And in terms of authentication of the user, we define a password now for the user that gets inside of the server. And after that, with that password, that is the view that can see the manager sale, and then all the other windows are locked. They can get access to other files or other database or other information, just the view, and they can make just the permission that we already gave them. Like if we put write or update or, well, now with the control and recovery of the database, well, we have different methods of recovery, but we have also different methods of recovery service, that is in lab recovery, data recovery server, software, and RAID and server recovery. The methods are backup the data in auxiliary store, transaction log, immediate update, and rollback. The backup in auxiliary store is get all the information, well, have a backup of all the information of the data. The transaction log is keep that backup, but for each transaction. And immediate update is depend on the transaction. Is different of the transaction because here is according with the log, or is what we have saved already in each transaction, but here is immediately. Like if I get something wrong or I make a mistake, I can recover that information because it's immediately. But with the transaction, is according with the last transaction that I completed. And rollback is when the data identified that there is something wrong with the read of the data, then they go back to the last transaction that was okay, and they can affect other transactions if they are connected. For the control access, we have access control. We have 3 steps. The first one is the security policy. Then we make like a little security policy for the database that we made. It's based on integrity of the information and how users are assigned with passwords and the logins, in the authorizations, and how the company needs to define levels of access for each user and what kind of information they can get access. Well, then the privileges are according with the update, delete, insert, or reference. Also the data encryption and the audit, that how often is monitoring the database and to minimize the system weakness, and also to see if what are the needs, the new needs of the database. Well, the second access control is authentication. Then how we have in the policy is each user assigned a login and a password. And those are other examples. That is the personal identification numbers, biometric scan, or one token. And the authorization is according with the abstraction. That could be external, conceptual, and internal. The external one that is the logins and the password. The conceptual is hide all the how was designed the database. And internal, it's just for programmers. How was designed. And the maintenance of the database is according with the backup of the database. Then we have the full backup, differential backup, and transactional backup. The full backup is the backup of the whole database, and the differential backup is since the last pullback, and the transactional backup is how I explained. It was in every transaction. Then we are having a full backup, a backup as well. And then, in conclusion, the development of the Blue Reason restaurant database was based on the requirements of the final user, enhancing the integrity and confidentiality of the information.